Hi Shankar.
Hi, sir.
What happened? Why are you dull?
So I'm preparing SSC exam, sir. It is last year syllabus, so much of syllabus is there. I'm getting very tension, sir.
I am here. You don't fear because in our Gauri Smart channel for SSC exam, each and every topic will be covered. Mathematics, science, social, GK. Each and every topic will be covered, and also grand test also will be covered. So you don't get tension. Understand?
Really, sir?
Yes.
Oh, hooray! Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Thank
All
you.
the
Thank
best
you.
for your exam.
So all of you like this Gauri Smart channel and subscribe this Gauri Smart channel. Thank you.
Good evening, all of you. Today we will discuss about the topic friction. Friction is also one type of a contact force. In the previous class, we learned about the different types of forces. Those are contact forces and non-contact forces. Contact forces are four types: muscular force, frictional force, normal force, and tension force. Today we will discuss about this friction. What is meant by friction? What is meant by frictional force? Friction is also one type of force which opposes the relative motion of a body when two surfaces are in contact. What is meant by frictional force? Frictional force is a force. Frictional force is a force. Okay. It opposes the relative motion of a body when two surfaces are in contact. Let us see here. These are two surfaces. This is one surface and this is another surface. For suppose this duster sliding on the plank. This duster sliding on the plank. When I am applying force, the duster sliding on the plank. The duster surface and the plank surfaces, two surfaces are in contact. While it is moving, the plank opposes the relative motion of this duster. In the same manner, this duster also opposes the relative motion of the plank. Okay, this is called frictional force. Frictional force always opposite to the direction of motion of the object. Frictional force is always opposite to the direction of the motion of the object. What does it mean? It is always opposite to the applied force. The object always moves in the force direction. In which direction we apply force, in the same direction the object will move. So, frictional force opposes the relative motion of a body when two surfaces are in contact. At the same time, frictional force opposes the relative motion of a body. What does it mean? Frictional force always works opposite direction to the motion of the body or opposite direction to the applied force. Okay, this friction also have classified into four kinds, that is static friction, sliding friction, rolling friction, and fluid friction. What is a static friction? How much force we apply also, there is a no change in the position of the object, then we can say that that is a static friction. That is a static friction. For suppose, how much force I am applying on this board, but there is no change in the position of the board. How much force applying on the board, the same magnitude of force in opposite direction applied by my palm. How much force I am applying, with the same force the board also applying on me. So there is no change in the position of the board. That means the net force acting on that board becomes 0. The net force acting on the board is 0. That is called static friction. So how much force we applied also, there is no change in the position of the object. That is called static friction. For suppose, another example, the next one is sliding friction. Before going to know about the sliding friction, we have to know about the limiting friction. What is meant by limiting friction? One body moving on another body. I applied little bit force, it does not move. I increased the force, it does not move. At a particular force, the object ready to start moving. At which particular force the object getting ready to start, that force is called limiting friction. If it exceeds that limit, the body which is in rest position come to in motion position, ready to move. At which force, which magnitude of the force the body gets ready to move, that is called limiting friction. That is called limiting friction. For suppose applied force is more than limiting force. If the applied force is more than limiting force, the object the object starts moving. For suppose if the applied force is less than limiting friction, the object is in stable position. It cannot move. Okay, that is called limiting friction. When a surface moving on another surface which opposes the relative motion, this is called sliding. One surface moves on another surface is called sliding. This is called sliding friction. When a body moving on another body, when they both are having contact, then that is called sliding friction. Sliding friction depend upon the smoothness of the surface. If the smoothness is more, friction becomes less. If the surface is rough, then the friction becomes more. The next one is rolling friction. Rolling friction also reduces the friction rolling. For suppose, let us see here, the duster not moving easily on this plank. I kept two chalk pieces here and I kept a duster here. If you observe the moving, it becomes very easy. Why it became very easy to move? Why? Because rolling, the chalk pieces are rolling on the surface. Rolling friction is less friction. It gives less friction, so the object moves very fastly. It reduces the friction. Rolling of an object reduces the friction. So rolling friction is less. If we take in ascending order, which has more friction? Static friction. Static friction is more than sliding friction. Sliding friction is more than rolling friction. So we can say in these types of friction, highest friction has static friction and the lowest friction has rolling friction. In intermediate state, the sliding friction is there. So this is about the different kinds of types of frictions. The another one is fluid friction. Fluid exerts friction on the objects. For suppose, let us take an example. In our day-to-day life, we will prepare lemon juice at our house. Okay, take a glass of water, add sugar and lemon juice. In that, again we are stirring with a spoon. Completely stir with spoon fastly and remove that spoon. If you observe, the spoon also revolves around the walls of the glass. After some time, it comes to rest. Why it came rest? Why? Because the fluid which is present in the container exerts pressure on the spoon. So it comes to rest. That is called fluid friction. Fluid also exerts friction. That fluid friction is called drag. Fluid exerts pressure on the objects, that is called drag. Okay, what is the use of to know about this fluid friction? What are fluids? The substances which flows are called fluids. The substances which flows are called fluids. We already know that matter exists in three states, that is solids, liquid and gas. For suppose if we want to move a solid, the total body means the total each and every particle of the body moves and it has a definite shape and it has a definite volume. But in the case of liquid and gases, they do not have definite shape. They acquire the shape of their container. If you flow a liquid on that, each and every particle cannot move with the same speed. So some particles will be attached to the floor and the remaining will flow. So the substances which flows are called fluids. Liquids and gases are called fluids. Liquids and gases. Liquids and gases combined together called as Fluids. Fluid exerts pressure, that is called fluid pressure. Fluid pressure also called as drag. The other name of fluid pressure is called drag. Okay. We will prepare the materials which we have to move on the liquid. We will prepare with the shape of fish, like fish. Why? Because the streamline structure means which reduces the friction while moving in fluids is called streamline structure. Whether in water, whether in liquid or gases, the objects move. The shape decides the friction in the fluid. That's why see birds freely moving on the air. That's why we will prepare aeroplane in the shape of a bird. It has two wings and move. Why? Because that is called streamline structure. Based on the streamline structure, we will prepare boats, ships on the sea. In the same manner, aeroplane in the shape of a bird. So it reduces the friction to move fastly. Okay. If we observe in our day-to-day life, friction is good as well as evil also. Means friction is useful in our day-to-day life. Without having friction, we cannot walk, we cannot run, we cannot hold any object, we cannot write, we cannot hold any object. So friction is good in our day-to-day life. In some cases, friction is evil also. It damages the machinery parts, it wear and tear. Okay, it damages the machinery parts. Friction is more than it produces heat. It damages the machinery parts. To reduce that friction, we will use lubricants. To reduce that friction, we will use lubricants. Friction is independent of area of contact. That it does not depend upon the area of contact. Friction is independent of area of contact. To reduce friction, we use lubricants. Sometimes we need friction, sometimes we have to reduce the friction. For suppose if we have to move any heavy objects or heavy suitcases, what we will do? We will use a wheels to reduce the friction. Rolling friction is less friction, we already learned. So we use wheels. For walking on road or for running, it is necessary of friction. Otherwise, we cannot stop. We have to move forward continuously. So to stop us, it is necessary to increase the friction. For that, we will use grooves shoes. Grooves means irregularities. If you observe the back side of the shoe, you can observe some irregularities. That is called grooves. So when surfaces are in moving on one another, these grooves are interlaced and increases the friction. To increase the friction, we have to keep some irregularities or rough surfaces to move. To reduce the friction, we have to use lubricants. Okay, for machinery parts, it damages the friction. So continuously we should not use the machines. Then it produces heat and it damages the machinery parts. So to reduce the friction, we will use lubricants. If we want to move forward very fastly to reduce the friction, we have to use wheels also. For suitcases, we will apply wheels for easy movement. Thank you.
If you like this video, you just like and subscribe the channel and share this video.